Hello and welcome to Full FX Unfiltered. My name is Colin Lambert. I'm publisher of the Full FX, and I'm delighted to be joined today by an old friend, Mark Suter, who is chairman and co-founder of Digital Vega.
Hello.
Mark, it's an opportune time for us to actually be doing this interview. For the viewers' information, we are 3 days after the JP Morgan e-trading edit of 2024, and something that stood out for me in that was increased electronification and FX options, as in traders are expecting 75% of their flows to be electronic from 66% just last year, and it's actually overtaking cash FX. So clearly there's something happening in the FX options. Can you sort of lay out the high-level view of what is actually changing?
We're just seeing a much greater interest across the industry of automation, which obviously includes electronification of options, being able to aggregate liquidity more efficiently, but it's as much adhering to some of the more complex regulatory requirements and also the increasingly complex workflow requirements as well. The common theme, or that we get from both, is people are looking to reduce costs and improve efficiency. Obviously, regulation has brought a huge amount of cost to some of the larger institutions, so they're looking for more efficient ways to actually resolve that. So, I mean, our focus for the last 5 or 6 years has been really purely on automation. We started as a basic liquidity aggregator, but the business has grown hugely from there. So a lot of the work we're doing now is post-trade, flow management, data, all the stuff that makes it much, much easier to trade. I mean, shall I carry on? I started trading options years and years ago, and it's a hugely manual process. Now, we've built solutions for them as systematic funds where they literally just push a button, load orders, they're executed automatically, or they're executed via a TWAP. We use an algo, we electronically select provider panels, and then we automate the expiry process. So it's literally fairly seamless.
And it's interesting to me, actually, because I mean, when we first spoke, when you first launched Digital Vega, it was very much about actually getting people to trade more electronically, perhaps.
Yes.
And it has actually extended way beyond that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are a new generation of participants coming into the industry who actually understand this more. I think in the early days, persuading people to move from voice to electronic was quite a tough one. People were very set in their ways, muscle memory. But I think once they get used to it, we've definitely seen a much wider adoption. And that's across the industry. That's asset managers, banks, hedge funds, corporates.
Yeah. You mentioned regulation. I don't think we can have a conversation about options without regulation.
Yes.
And I love the way your eyes went to the ceiling there. But what is the impact on traders in this market of regulation? Because actually, funny enough, that was another feature of that JP Morgan e-trading edit this week.
Well, the regulations are constantly being changed or updated. I think we've got a EMIR refit going on right now. The CFTC have added some additional requirements. So it adds layers of complication and cost to the whole thing. But obviously, everybody has to adhere to regulation. So it's now part and part of the territory. I think one thing that we're very proud of is that we knew from day one that we wanted to be regulated by the correct regulators. So we are FCA regulated. We have a separate equivalence from the CFTC. Finally, I think the regulators have caught on that there are actually a lot of technology providers out there that didn't think they needed to be regulated, but now they're having a bit of a wake-up call. So finally, all good things come to those who wait.
I mean, obviously, so that has been a focus of your business from the start. What I would call now getting to the mature stage of the business, from what was effectively a startup.
Yes.
So what are you doing now? I mean, how do you grow your business from here? You have the core features is there. You have the workflow. Yeah.
Well, I think the various elements. So we diversified the business. Originally, we started just with RFQ price aggregation, which worked very well. Took a while, but I think we're by far the biggest player in that space. Then we get into more structured products and workflow for private banks. Private banks obviously are trading much more complex structures, much more difficult to manage, and as best executioners hit them, they're being forced to look at an alternative so they can aggregate pricing, but also manage all the post-trade, the credit risk, the market risk, etc. So that's a growing business. The order book will come to in a little bit later. That's an interesting project. But more recently, it's white labeling. So Hydra, which is the platform we built for the private banks, there is sort of morphed into a new version. So we're doing more and more business with not the top tier banks, but banks below that suddenly realised that even though their optional business was quite profitable, it was still quite small, it was quite complex, and it was done very manually. But now regulators are saying we want to see audit trails, we want to see timestamps, and also these banks need to compete with the big guys. They need to have a valid, viable electronic offering.
Yeah.
Now, we all know if they tried to build it themselves, it would be 5 years later, it would cost them a fortune, and they'd be too late. So we literally almost have a plug-and-play solution. So salespeople within a bank can price any kind of structure accurately, talk to a client, get a price on the trading desk, book the trade, do the allocations, add the margins, do all the downstream stuff. So it's a very neat solution. It's all AWS hosted, it's browser based, and it just runs.
Yeah.
So that's been probably one of our biggest growth areas in the last
And I
year
guess
or two.
there's been noise from clients on the buy side over recent years about they're concerned about the consolidation of their LPs.
Yeah.
I guess white labelling is one way to actually ensure that they can maintain a decent panel of LP providers.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, there are different versions of it. Some of the bigger banks will use their own pricing engine for everything. Others will outsource liquidity for specific pairs or tenors, etc. And it's all done seamlessly.
So one of the challenges all startups face is scale.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're now reaching a stage where you've gained the traction, you've got the scale.
Yeah.
How do you? Let's give a tip to the entrepreneurs out there. I mean, how do you actually sort of achieve scale? I mean, is it organic or is it through partnerships?
I think it depends what you're trying to do. And I think naively at the beginning we thought we wouldn't need to rely on anybody else. We could do this on our own, and we'd be the sort of top of the mountain. But the reality is we have purely FX options means we cover a lot of people, but it's in some cases a small part of their business.
Yeah.
So to have a huge distribution sales force just to try and sell that product doesn't really make sense. So over the years, what we've done is realised the benefits of partnering. So we originally partnered with Spark in Singapore. They have a white labelled DV offering, which they show to their clients. So Spark now have a full service solution. They've got spot forward, NDFs, and options. That's worked very well, successful. They like it. We've also done a similar arrangement with FactSet in the States, more for the asset management community. Mm-hmm. So because options, as we said, is quite small, but it's very complicated. Yeah. So, and I think when people look and think, oh gosh, I need to be able to do that, they realise they can't do it. So if you've got the right commercial arrangement, it works well. CME, as well, we'll get to that a little bit later, that's a partnership where our technology and our liquidity can be reused in listed markets. Yeah. So partnerships have worked very well for us.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier the order book, and it is something that I would like to get onto because it strikes me that most markets, as they go through increased electronification, need access to good quality market data. Yeah. And generally speaking, the best market data is available from a firm limit order book. Yeah. Yeah. So how challenging is it to actually produce a CLOB for FX options? And how far down the road are you?
We thought it was going to be easy. How wrong were we?
Well, we embrace failure at the FX. Don't worry about it.
I think the technology is great. We're really pleased with the technology, the way that it works. What we had not reckoned on was the amount of increased regulation, surveillance, compliance, security operations. I mean, we thought we'd be done in a year, and we've been doing this for more than 2 years. We're now getting some traction, getting people signed up, but for the major banks, it's a very, very laborious process. But our view is, once the thing's up and running, we've already got sort of the best pricing we've seen on any run on the street. Once we start to really generate flow, I think we've got about between 57 and 60 banks who are either connected or signed up. We just need to switch it on when we've got sufficient liquidity. But I think it will generate a unique real-time market data set. And that, as we all know, data is becoming increasingly valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Increasingly valuable.
Is there? I mean, apart from AI, is there anything else we talk about nowadays? Data and AI? No. I guess then to close out, I'd like to get your thoughts on how this plays out in a more general market structure sense. You mentioned the CME blocks. Yeah. What role does that play in a future market structure? Are FX options inevitably a more of a fusion of listed and OTC. What do you think are the key things to watch for in the FX options market structure?
Dare I say regulation? UMR seems to be
collectively 100% of our audience has just groaned.
No, it's not how I'd spell regulation. Anyway, yes. No. The partnership with CME will allow us to provide liquidity, the equivalent of OTC liquidity, but for listed CME option blocks. So, as UMR has effectively come down the food chain, people are starting to realise that actually the cost of doing business is going up. If it's listed, if we can provide the holy grail of the same OTC liquidity we have right now on the platform, but also the ability to feed it straight into Clearboard, have it listed, posted, and go from there. And there's quite a lot of interest in that as well. So I think we'll be the first to have listed and OTC literally next to each other. You can compare the two. And I think overall in the market, that's going to happen more and more. More people will start looking at listed. Part of this is a generational thing as well. I mean, it is us old guys, we didn't really understand futures and didn't want to get involved. They
tried it the wrong way around for a start.
I know. So I think we're working on that. But no, I think reality is that you will start to see that stuff fuse a little bit more.
Yeah. And I guess greater automation becomes even...
Yes, absolutely. Again, the two key things are reducing costs and improving automation, improving workflow.
And it's amazing to me how effectively you're reflecting conversations that the cash FX world had 15 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Certainly seems to me as though there's a lot happening in the FX options. It's interesting because after the Full FX London, we did a panel on FX swaps and we did a panel on FX options. And at the end of it, I came out and a lot of people said to me, I think things might be happening quicker in FX options than they are in FX swaps, which is not necessarily what we expected.
No, it isn't. And I said, I think, particularly in the leverage world, there's a much bigger focus on systematic vol trading, and there's some very, very clever people doing that stuff right now. All they want to do is they don't want to build aggregators. They just want to plug their orders in and go. And if they know they're going to get decent liquidity and all of the post-trade benefits of it, then it means they can do it much more quickly. And it also allows them to do more business, which is great for the market as a whole.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you and I are talking about clever people. Yeah. Obviously, we understand that 100%, being clever.
Yeah.
Always good to talk to you, Mark. Thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Good luck as we advance your FX options market structure.
Well done on what you've done with Full FX as well. You should be proud. And Michelle.
On that embarrassing note, thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll be back
Got you again.
Soon. Yes. Thanks a lot, everyone. We'll be back again soon.
Thank you.